to decide how we're going to fight the fire is based on setting some objectives. And those objectives could be for a lot of different reasons. The first one obviously is going to be public safety. We're going to try to make sure that the public is safe. We're also going to think about firefighter safety as well in that decision making. So the other thing that typically drives a lot of our decision making are structures. We're going to use these little rocks here as our structures, right? So our objective probably is going to be to work on what we call the left flank of the fire here. So we're going to start here, and in general, we'll start trying to anchor from the road and start digging some line, right? And we're going to work along this side, and people are going to physically come in and start scraping away the fuel down to mineral soil, this type of material, in order to hold the creeping fire from creeping across. A lot of times, the fire behavior may be too active for us to get close to the flames. So what we'll do is we'll have the helicopters come in, and they'll drop along this hot edge, and they're going to knock that fire down. Helicopters dropping water from the air does not put the fire completely out. It only aids in the suppression effort. It may in grass, but in general, when we're in like forest fuels, it typically doesn't allow us to it will never put the fire out because it burns underneath the surface fuels into the ground fuels. So that's stuff that's under the surface.
So the water basically is only reaching, let's say, the treetops or even halfway down the treetops, but not necessarily at the ground level.
It generally gets to the surface, but not underneath the surface. So there are surface fuels, and then there are the ground fuels, those subsurface fuels like the duff. That stuff when you dig underneath the leaves in your yard, or it's kind of like a mulch. Like there's the stuff on top that burns really readily, and then it creeps around underneath. So what we have to do is dig down to this mineral soil to stop that fire from burning through those organic fuels that are below the surface. So the aircraft will knock the fire down. We'll work along this edge in tandem with that aircraft. And this is the tactic that's really successful and very safe, and it's very proven. The reason why we wouldn't start, say, up here and start working our way along just right where the structures were is that if we skipped this portion of the fire, it could squeak out and come around us, and that could put our safety at jeopardy. It could also be, it would allow the structures to burn. So
the number one priority for you guys is protection of life and property, correct?
Yeah. So in general, we'll work that way. Sometimes we'll have the helicopter come out in front of us, and let's say the fire is getting really close to this structure here. We'll have them make a few drops to slow that fire spread while we catch up. So it buys us time to catch up with that line that'll actually hold the fire, and eventually we'll work our way all the way around. Another tactic would be is that we all have engines potentially come up, prep these structures by doing trying to do some mitigation around them, do what we can in the time given. So we may come in and do some work around each one of these structures. Maybe dig some line around them, and then depending on fire behavior and a lot of different things that are going to affect firefighter safety, we may be able to leave an engine there, or we may be able to come back shortly after the fire has come through there. So we'll work our way through, and that's just a priority of doing triage on the structures. This is another good thing for homeowners is, this is the time of year to make sure you've done all your mitigation around your house. There are lots of great websites to go to. Firewise is a great website. There are many mitigation websites for the public to help us help them. So we'll keep working our way around, and eventually we'll work our way around to the head of the fire and pinch this fire off. So one of the dangers, a lot of people will think that we should go to the most active part of the flames and put that part of the fire out. And sometimes that is a tactic, but the concern is that if we just start putting water in the front and we don't connect it together, it'll burn around and create this kind of situation, which is very hard for us to fight the fire because now we have fire on both sides of us. So we typically try to avoid that sort of tactic. Our main tactic is to anchor, flank, and pinch. And we may, it's because if this is just forested land out here or has no value or little values, as opposed to, say, structures, we'll oftentimes let one side of the fire burn while we focus on another.
How do most of these fires start?
That's really hard to say. There's a lot of starts. like particularly in the mountains from lightning, and there's a lot of human costs, which are really hard to determine exactly what happened.